Om Namo Narayana. My name is Premanandas Bhagat. For years, I followed the so-called spiritual path, believing everything and anything, including joining a cult. It took years of purging to find the truth, and by committing to the path of Sanatana Dharma. If you are a seeker who is sick of the fluff, who believes science, logic, and scripture can coexist, and who believes fake spirituality runs rampant, and who is searching for a light at the end of the dark tunnel we call this life, well, you're in the right place. I challenge lazy philosophy and speak directly to speakers' daily struggles. I am not here to entertain, but to provoke thought and a life of Dharma. So welcome to my show. Today we are going to look at what it means to be a religious fanatic from a Hindu perspective. So this is partly for my own self-worth, which I'll explain in a second, but also just to educate, because I think we often use words and we think we know what they mean, and they kind of don't mean that. And so I thought it would be really interesting to touch base on this word, religious fanatic, today. Now, why am I doing this? Because I had someone call me a religious fanatic in the comments. And it was nice. Okay, so if you're watching this, the person who did it, I don't hate you. It wasn't taken in a bad way. Uh, I can't remember exactly what was said, but it was like, you're like the most bubbly, upbeat religious fanatic I've ever seen, or something, you know. Oh, it was the most upright, beginner, spiritual person, religious fanatic. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Been doing this for 30 years, but that's fine. If you think I'm a beginner, but religious fanatic. They were. It was a weird compliment, but it really got me thinking. And I almost considered ending the channel right then and there, just saying I'm done. I won't be doing any more. Because for me, the definition of religious fanatic is 180% the opposite of everything I have ever aimed for with this channel. More than 180%. It's just the completely opposite what I believe religious fanatic means. And if someone is getting that feeling off of this, that I'm a religious fanatic, then I have 100%, a million percent, failed at everything I wanted with this. And I literally was thinking about, like, I'm done. I have completely failed. I've wasted years of my life doing this. You know, and for every hour I'm broadcasting, there's hours and hours and hours I'm spending working on the channel. Weeks that I'm not broadcasting, there's a reason I don't broadcast, because I'm working on the channel. I'm doing stuff and making changes, and it's not just edit and do this. This is quite a huge hobby that makes no money. So I was like, if this is it, if I have 100% failed in my message, I'm done. And then I thought about it. I was like, no, no, that can't be right. No, I haven't failed. I think maybe what happened was a couple things. One, either this guy or woman, but I think it's a guy, doesn't know the definition of religious fanatic. Okay, then we need to look this up. So I did a little research, and I printed out a bunch of stuff, nice and long definition, so we can be really clear. And we will learn together what a religious fanatic is. So we don't go calling people religious fanatics who actually are not. The second thing is, the guy may have seen like one episode, and he might have heard me say something that sounds sort of like maybe what a religious fanatic might say, or might appear to say, or might be stereotyped to say, and just immediately went, oh, you said this word, you must be. People do this all the time. It kind of drives me a little bonkers. We all kind of do it, but it's a real sort of world of everything's in a box, and as soon as you hear something that you just, what is, oh, well, it goes in this box. You know, I said something to somebody once. I actually was defending Christianity, believe it or not, and they said, well, I'm willing to bet you married your sister, or you've got a couple inbred relatives, and you sleep with the Bible in your bed. What state are you from? And I'm like, well, I'm from Maine, and I'm a Hindu, and I don't believe the Bible, and I didn't marry my cousin, and no one has. What? But you said, yes, I said, and you immediately assumed that I was all these things just because I have an opinion that is like that. Just because you defend Christianity doesn't mean you're a Christian in this particular conversation we were having. Basically, the person was accusing Christians of doing something that they were not doing, and I said, if you're going to make up lies about them, well, there's plenty of lie, and there's plenty of stuff you can criticize. Oh, you must be one of those Christian bigots. Why? They heard something and then immediately assumed a million things. So that's what this person could have done. Or they listened to a few episodes and, oh, this must be, this is a beginner religious fanatic, doesn't know what they're talking about. No, I know what I'm talking about. I just do it in a different way. I don't sit here and now your Shakti pot must be whatever, because I'm aiming for a different audience. I'm aiming for people who want something more than the normal. I'm aiming for people who want to really feel God, and God doesn't sound like every single person out there, and I'm aiming for people who aren't necessarily Hindu. I'm aiming for someone who wants the truth, and the truth is a little bigger. I choose to find that truth through one path, but my audience is different, and I also don't want to be pretentious and pretend to be something like all these other folks, so I don't use these things. I don't use terminology to scare people away. I speak differently. Doesn't mean I'm a beginner or not clueless. I think I do know, and I think I'm insightful. I'm also sometimes wrong. But anyways, it's got me thinking. We need to do a show to respond to this accusation about being a fanatic. But really more so to learn what a fanatic is. So please join me here as we learn what a fanatic is. Before I get any farther, I am going, if you are listening to this live on YouTube, I'm going to open up now the chat window. There it is. Okay, so the chat window is open. So over the next hour or so, if you would like to input, feel free. If I don't respond to your chat, it's simply because I'm probably reading something and I want to get to a point without interrupting it. Don't take it personally. And I will then, at the end, review any things. Now, before we go into this, I should say I asked Google for information. I asked Google a couple different questions. I said, what are the traits of religious fanatic? And then also, what is a religious fanatic? And I found the answers came out a little bit differently. So I printed both of them out here so we could get the biggest possible definition to truly understand what a religious fanatic is. And so I was just like, yeah, no, this is worth really delving into a little bit. And of course, I'm going to use my own personality and point of view here to talk about this and also respond to the accusation, which isn't really a great word. It was, I think, a compliment in some way, but I'm going to respond to that and point out how I'm not. So please note I will be referencing this show and things I'm doing as we go through this list. Before I get into this, though, let us clarify that there are religious fanatics and there are religious fundamentalists. And fanatic and fundamentalist don't have the same meaning. You could be a religious fanatic and maybe not be a fundamentalist, or vice versa. I don't believe. We'll get into this as we read, but I don't believe. There is a difference. Now, you might, in all honesty, you might see some of my episodes and think I am a religious fundamentalist, particularly if you're watching this on YouTube where I'm reading the scriptures. And I'm on I've read 101 Upanishads and, verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam, or chapters, cantos, and parts of the Ramayana, and I'm really into the scriptures. I really like them. So you might think I'm a fundamentalist, because fundamentalists tend to be seen as being really into the scripture. So before we go any farther, I just want to clarify that these are two different things. Now, the definition of fundamentalist is, in its basic form, someone who tends to see scriptures in a literal way. We must believe the scripture. It says X, Y, and Z. This is what we must do. Whatever. Okay, that is the basic definition of a fundamentalist. A religious fanatic goes beyond scripture. isn't necessarily based on scripture. It's based on a bigger picture. So we have that clear. So I'm strictly talking about religious fundamentalists today and what they are to learn. Now, to just refer to my last point, you may think I am a religious fundamentalist. I think I might be more in line with that because I put emphasis on the scripture and the value of the scriptures. But when it comes down to it, if you watch enough of my episodes, you know that I'm pretty forthright about criticizing things, particularly when it comes to the Varna and the caste system, particularly comes with women. I did a whole episode criticizing the Vedic view of marriage, and that was all scripture that I was ripping apart. I've criticized Swaminarayan at times, because there was just some things I didn't think work for the present world. I also say that the scriptures may not be translated accurately. We might be following the wrong things. Fundamentalists isn't going to do that. They're absolutely not going to be saying the scriptures are wrong and we shouldn't follow them. And even if they are translated right, they don't work. So I'm not really a fundamentalist, but I do think there is value in the scriptures as the basis of our faith. Okay, so you might be able to accuse me of that a little bit. All right, moving on. Let me take a drink here. Sorry, that was empty. This is not the first show I've done today. This is a couple of them. My voice is a little rough. Please excuse me. Let me just take a drink, and then we're going to go into the question of what is a religious fanatic. And in all honesty, when I looked at this stuff on my phone originally before I printed it out, I didn't read everything, so I wanted to save it live with you so we can look at all of this together. And so some of this will be sort of the first time that I'm reading it. So according to Google, a religious fanatic is a person who exhibits an uncritical zeal or obsessive enthusiasm, specifically related to their devotion to a particular religion. I really like that line. And when I saw that line, it was like, yes, this is why we have to do an episode on this. It's not just zeal. Oh, I love my God so much. And not just an enthusiasm, which I show on this. That might be why someone said I was a fanatic, because I was full of enthusiasm for what I was talking about in this episode. But it's also obsessive. I'm actually not obsessive, believe it or not. Really not. But it's more so for me uncritical. Someone who is uncritical. They have all the love and they don't ask any questions. That to me is what a fanatic is. And you know, that is the whole gist of this channel. That you absolutely should ask questions. I don't care who you are. I don't care who your guru is. I say this all the time. The moment you stop asking questions is the moment your spirituality hits a wall. The only way you'll ever go anywhere is to learn. And I've been accused, well, just ask Guru, they give you the answer and just swallow it. And the end, well, your Guru doesn't know necessarily everything either, because guess what? Your Guru isn't God. There's no living avatar in the world right now. Your Guru isn't God. Your Guru doesn't know everything and won't until they're on another plane of existence that you can't see. So there's always going to be questions. Some questions may be more valuable than others. Some might be really simple. They might be beginner questions. Some might be impossible to answer. Some might really have no relevancy. But never stop asking questions. And I think that is the major difference between being just, I think that is actually I think that is the major difference between a real spiritual seeker and someone just on the path, but also a spiritual seeker and a fanatic. A fanatic, to me, feels like someone who is obsessed with this culture and this minding in it, but it's just something they're doing. Maybe it's a club. It's like a club. I would just say that. It's a group they're a part of. But they don't ask questions, and they're not really probing deep into themselves to find the truth, which may not fit a box that they have preconceived. So I think it's totally fine to be enthusiastic about your religion. I think we should be. I've had episodes where I've talked about where I actually was not, and I didn't tell anybody because I really knew I was into something that I really didn't believe. Obsessiveness is fine. I don't think that's a problem unless it starts destroying the rest of your life. But that uncritical thing, that is the thing. And I think is that the key. And we could probably stop the episode now and just say, hey, don't ever stop asking questions. But we're going to keep on because I just really want to dig into what is a fanatic so we can avoid being one. Because already in this one sentence, for me, a religious fanatic is someone I don't want to be. And isn't about finding truth. It isn't about finding God or a God or any God. It is about being a part of a movement. That's what this feels like to me. I might be wrong as we dig into this, but that's what it feels like. It's about being a part of a movement, not about actually wanting to believe something that might put you outside of the movement, that might change your life. It's not about that. It's not really about belief. Yeah, there's nothing in that sentence I just read that was about belief. It was about zeal, enthusiasm, obsessiveness, and uncritical thinking. Interesting. And thought just came to me. I'm always talking about on this show circle spirituality. I should copyright that phrase. I've said it enough. Where we think we are doing something, but in reality we're just going in circles. Just going in circles. We never really go anywhere. We just kind of repeat the same action over and over again, repeat the same little high. We never really achieve anything, but we think we do because we've had that high 5,000 times. I talk about this in my criticism of tarot card readings, where I did 1,000 readings, but I never actually did anything that made me feel anything. I had 4 great readings out of 1,000, and I just wasted my time. It was just going in circles, never doing anything, being trapped in our comfort zone. I have an episode coming up in the future on breaking comfort zone, so please subscribe. And I just thought, as I read the sentence, about New Age people I know who might be called a fanatic. And that is something we should consider, because I think when we think of fanatic, I think we would generally think of, a Christian fanatic. And we all know what those look like if we're in the States. We might think of a Muslim fanatic, which I think we all may know what one looks like. I'm sure there's, Hindu fanatics might be equated with the Hindutva movement currently. And that's my Western point of view. I'm not saying that they are. I'm just saying from the West, that's how we paint the Hindutva movement, is fanaticism and also fascism. But I don't like to use that term, and we're not going to go there. So there's probably a Buddhist fanaticism maybe too. I don't know the Buddhist community. But do we ever think of New Age fanatics? Is there such a thing? I'm going to say yes, there is. I know friends of mine who, oh my God, they're all super obsessive about their crystals and about their whatever. They can't get to the door without doing Reiki on the doorknob. Their enthusiasm for this is, I will tell everybody in the world that I have achieved this thing of whatever, and their zeal is like fire. It's actually really great, but they have less critical thinking than most people I know. So when we talk about religious fanatics, we really should remember this is about religion, all forms, and spirituality. You can be a religious fanatic and be a New Ager. You don't just have to be part of a religion. People like to think of religion as this organized group, and that makes fanatics, but New Agers aren't organized. But I still think you could be a fanatic. If you are a New Ager, you don't have to be in an organized group. Because if you have that zeal and that obsessiveness, and you are no longer asking questions. So let's remember this. When we use the word fanatic, it's beyond just Christians or Muslims or, the stuff that gets into the news. It's beyond all that. I'm just checking something on my computer. Okay, just want to verify something. So let's remember that the word fanatic is bigger than what we may perceive, and when we use it just for these things, we're actually now using fanatic in sort of a stereotypical context and not understanding it. So, hey, if nothing else, I think that's a good thing to have pointed out in this episode, which I actually did not think about until sitting here. Okay, let's keep reading. Picking up, this often manifests as an extreme and unwavering commitment to their religious beliefs, frequently accompanied by intolerance towards other faiths or differing interpretations within their own religion. Now that's very interesting. So I might have been accused in the episode of being intolerant. That's why someone said I was a fanatic. I don't really think of myself as being so much intolerant. I just think my religion's the best. Yeah! No, I think my religion provides light in the darkness that it will be hard to find in many religions, but not it's not exclusive. There are other religions I think also give a light in the darkness. They're just not the light I follow. I think Buddhism gives you a light in the darkness that is equal to Sanatana Dharma. I'm not really intolerant towards other religions, but I am intolerant towards people like Ray Comfort who lie and manipulate to get you to become a follower of Jesus. I am intolerant of foolish universalism and philosophies which are not about God, they're about twisting your mind into a knot. But if you're Christian, fine. I got friends who are Christians. I'm fine with that. Doesn't bother me in the least. If you're Buddhist, whatever, if you're Muslim, I've played in a rock band with Muslims, and I love them dearly. Played in a rock band with Christians, Protestants, whatever. They're friends of mine. I'm not intolerant. Someone may have seen that. But intolerance is a key point, though. Differing interpretations when their only religion is kind of interesting, though. That one, I'm not really sure what that means. Because I think I don't understand. I guess it means they have a certain point of view, and this may go into like a fundamentalist point of view. I'm not sure without discussing each religion what how that means. But let's keep reading. Google said to me, "Here's a breakdown of what all this entails: extreme devotion. Their religion is often the central and most important aspect of their life, sometimes to the exclusion of other interests and concerns." Ah, yes, I like that. I have met folks in the Hare Krishna world who don't want you to read any book other than books by Srila Prabhupada, don't watch TV, don't do anything, and these folks literally told me to throw out all the books that you see behind me, throw out everything around me, and just read his books all day. And then they were like, "Oh, I'm so miserable and so lonely." And I'm like, "Well, isn't Krishna giving you everything?" Yeah, I see. I'm not in that because God provided me with books. He provided me with a brain that wants to learn and wants to read. And okay, I got Baby Yoda over here. That was a gift because I like the TV show, and the new Andor is really good, by the way. I don't think I'm ruining myself. I enjoy these things. They inspire my creativity, and that creativity then spurs me to do things like this podcast. So, surrounding myself with the material world actually, I think, is helpful. I am not obsessed with my religion to the point where there can be nothing but that religion. I think it is good to not do that. And, excuse me, another reason why it is good to not do that, I've always sort of been curious about like monks who stand up. They've been a monk since age of 4, let's say in India, and they're like, "Well, let me tell you about sex between married couples." I'm like, "You've never had sex, you've never been married. You've never had a girlfriend. I feel very uncomfortable with you giving me advice." I've always had that sort of like, learn about the world. I would be more respectful of you if you had grown up in the world and gone to college and then became a monk. Okay, then I can get it. You have worldly knowledge. And you haven't excluded the world and said it's all about religion. And in America, that's almost hard to do. In other countries, I think you can exclude the world, but I don't think we should. I think God created the world. We should enjoy it. Materialism can take us away from God, but we should not let it. We should still keep God in our life. That is a sin to, be taken away from God. Um, and this extreme devotion, and it runs your 24. Yeah, no, I just disagree with that. I think you can have the best of both worlds. Now, this is a householder position, and most of us, I think, are householders. I don't think there's any monks who listen to the show. And even then, I think a monk should take, knowledge of the world and understand that there's more out there, more there than just the cloister walls. I think this is very important for them to be leaders of the community. If you're isolated in a cloister and you know nothing, you're like a prisoner. Actually, prisoners even know more sometimes. And I think you should come into the world. It won't hurt you. And if your faith is strong, it'll be fine. Sometimes I think people are in cloisters and it's detrimental to them because it's actually keeping them in a box and it's keeping them from being critical and it's not helping them any grow in their faith. And I've known a few people who have left cloisters and their faith has exploded because they were allowed to think and allowed to grow in a way it didn't. So the cloister wasn't actually preserving them as godly people, it was protecting them from themselves and protecting them from really reaching God because they never got in touch with themselves. Cloister at times could be like being Jehovah's Witness or a Muslim. Sorry, a Mormon here in the States. It can be very isolating. That's just my view. Next thing on this list is it says uncritical zeal. They tend to accept their religious doctrines without question or critical analysis. Well, I've already spoken on that. Don't ever do that. The moment you do, your brain is dead. You're not using it. God gave you a brain. Why don't you use it? Ask questions. And if your teacher doesn't like it, question why. Next thing on this list says obsessive enthusiasm. Their passion for their religion can be intense and all-consuming, and this sort of overlaps with devotion and what we've said. I don't think there's anything wrong with being intense about your faith. It's important, right? It's your life, right? Musicians are intense about their music career. Why can't I be intense about my faith? Well, which leads us to a good example. A musician who goes on tour all the time will tell you that they've had 3 marriages and never see their kids, and that they lost something by being so intense. And that is the thing we should understand, that the religion can do the same thing. We can be like that musician who's been on tour. Our religion can be so encompassing that we push people away and that we actually lose out on things. So the other thing this says as the definition of religious fanaticism is intolerance. So Google says, a fanatic often shows a lack of acceptance or understanding towards those who hold different religious beliefs or no religious beliefs at all. And this can range from mild disapproval to outright hostility. I think this is very interesting. Intolerance is very interesting, and of all the definitions I've just read, this is the longest one too. I think this is a key trait of a fanatic, is their intolerance. And it's not just I don't accept your religion, it's just I don't understand it, and I'm not even going to try to understand it. There are religions that I don't particularly think are that interesting. I question them as being whatever, but I like to think that I at least try to understand them. So the person who called me a religious fanatic, you don't have me at all, right? For example, I think that Mormonism is a questionable religion in every way, shape, and form. Never met a Mormon I didn't like. They are good people, but their religion has issues, and I believe they're put into boxes. And, well, I haven't just said that, but I'm in the process of reading the Book of Mormon. I'm about not quite 200 pages down on the most boring book I've ever read, because I would like to understand them. I'm not just criticizing them and being intolerant, but I'm actually trying to understand where they are coming from. So I don't see myself as a fanatic. And I do this with all sorts of religions. If someone says to me, oh, well, whatever, I try to follow it. When someone recommends a guru to me, I will look at videos of the guru. It may not resonate, but I will take time out. I will listen. I'm very curious. And so I don't think I'm a fanatic. That curiosity can lead to incredible places. It can, really develop things and open you up. So I think curiosity, I think what we've learned today, if you want to be a good spiritual person, don't stop asking questions and be curious. And when you shut those things down, you stop listening, and you shut things down, now you become a fanatic. And the end thing is, a fanatic is not, like I said at the beginning of the show, it's not about finding God. A fanatic is about being a part of some movement or a community, or being in a comfort zone. I think that's really what it is. Let's keep going. There's one more point on this list from Google. It says a fanatic has a belief in absolute truth. They typically believe their religion represents the one and only true path, often viewing other beliefs as inherently wrong or even evil. Yeah, I go there sometimes. Just to be fair, I go there. I think mine is the true path. But my logic is this. If I did not think Sanatana Dharma was the true path, why would I follow it? Why would I follow something that I knew wasn't true? Like Mormonism, I know it's not true. It can't be true. There's so many flaws with it. The book is poorly written, and you just do the research. Why would I then become a Mormon? Ah, yes, I follow the not true path. It's not true. That's why I follow it. that I would then ask that you call 911 and have me committed to an insane asylum. Nobody follows a path they don't think is true. So you follow what is true. I think my path is true. I do think there's other paths, as I said before in the show, that have truth. Um, Buddhism, I'm going to say is one of them. I think is blanking on Buddhism. I think is one. Jainism, actually, I also think is a path to truth. I think there's a few others. Matter of fact, I also think there are some religions that are not a path to truth. Jehovah's Witnesses, I don't think are. I don't think Christian Science is. I don't think Scientology is. I don't think they're evil, though. Not at least. I don't think they're evil. I don't even think Islam is evil. But I do think they have their beliefs wrong on a philosophical in a philosophical way. Just arguing them alone, you can out argue Mormonism very easily. I think it's philosophically wrong. And then, if it's philosophically wrong, why are you following something that is philosophically debunked very quickly? Why not follow something else? That's just my logic. But there may be things in this that you're following that are good for your life. In which case, there is benefit here, but the overall picture then. So I kind of do this. I think also we all kind of do this. I think every single person out there does this. An atheist does this. They believe that the atheism is the absolute truth. Do we have a religious? Can you be a religious fanatic if you're an atheist? I bet you can. I bet I probably could, right? If you're an intolerant atheist who won't listen, does that make you an atheistic fanatic? Seems like it, right? It's kind of interesting though, but it's like, is this a bad thing? I no. I mean, again, if I didn't think my truth was real, I wouldn't follow it, so I wouldn't have anything at all then, because I don't. This is an interesting one to ponder. But we're going to keep moving. I'll let you ponder it on your own in the comments down below. So a little bit more on this. Google says to me, it's important to note that the term religious fanatic often carries a negative connotation, which we all know, implying that this extreme devotion leads to irrational behavior, prejudice, and violence. While deep religious faith is common and often positive, fanaticism takes that devotion to a level where it can become harmful to both the individual and society. Think of it this way. I have. This is from Hey Google, which I have programmed to be a bit conversational, so that's not my word. It actually, she says, think of it this way. A deeply religious person finds guidance and meaning in their faith. Good. While a religious fanatic may impose their beliefs on others, may or may not, but probably does, demonize those who disagree, and potentially justify harmful actions in the name of their religion. So that is what a religious fanatic is. That's not me in the least. I do not encourage violence. I don't encourage proselytizing either. And I demonize liars like Ray Comfort, but not all Christians. So whoever called me a religious fanatic, I don't think I am. I do believe the absolute truth, but that doesn't make me a bad person or a fanatic. That one point alone doesn't make it. And as it says, deep devotion can be a good thing. So it's very, very interesting. Yeah, I want to move now, and I think that answers a lot. For me, it very much clarifies what religious fanatic is. I think that's a fairly good definition that Google has drawn from numerous things. I really like when I ask Google for information on my phone. My phone's charging right now. I ask it for a deep dive to do some research, and she really digs in. I say she because I have her programmed as a British woman, British voice. She really digs into some good definitions, and I think that is a good one. But right now, I also want to go to the second question. So I asked Google, what is a religious fanatic, and I also said, what are the traits of a religious fanatic? And there is overlap here, but it's an interesting list. We're just going to go through this list. I think I'll keep my comments a little on the minimal side here. I think I've said a lot, and I think probably a lot of you agree with me, and we'll just leave this to be a little more educational and let it speak for itself, if you don't mind. As I said at the beginning of the show, the chat window is open. Feel free to put something in there. I have it right in front of me right now, and if I don't get to it immediately, just chill, and I'll find it after I get to a good stopping point or at the end of the show. So according to this, and just so you know, I research this, in case you're wondering, April 30th, 2025. I'm now recording this in June 2025. So these definitions may change, or if you want to verify this down the road, things do change. But in April 2025, Google said that a religious fanatic often exhibits a cluster of traits characterized by an extreme and unwavering devotion to their religious beliefs, frequently coupled with intolerance towards differing viewpoints. So, what we've just discovered. So, these are the common traits under the category of belief and attitudes. Unwavering certainty. They possess an absolute conviction in the correctness of their religious beliefs, often viewing them as the only truth. Before we go any farther in this, I probably should say I tend to take the belief that if you have one of these points, it doesn't make you a fanatic. Sort of like when I talk about cults, I have a set of 8 criteria points I use, and I'm like, you need 8 to be a cult. If you have one, you're not a cult. Otherwise, who needs criteria points? So if I have unwavering certainty in my beliefs, I don't think that makes me a fanatic, given my list is a page and a fourth long of traits. I think it needs more than that. So I think we should be careful. Oh, you have religious certainty and you have no doubt. Well, fanatic. I think we should be careful to just label people quickly, because I mean, most religious people would then, I guess, be a fanatic, and I don't know. I mean, there are religious people I know who question their belief, but they don't tend to be in any set religion. Um, so I want to mention that we should weigh these out and go, oh, you have a majority of the traits. Yeah, you're going to the fanatic side, and there may be some traits for me which outweigh others. So, unwavering certainty, here we go. Intolerance of other views. They show little to no acceptance of other religious or non religious perspectives, often seeing them as wrong, misguided, or even evil. I hate when we call other religions evil. I really do. I think that's a sign of being uncritical, which would make you a fanatic. And the thing is, I see so many people who just, it's evil, it's evil, it's evil. It's just, well, it goes into the next point. Black and white thinking. See, these things all move together. They tend to see the world in starkly defined terms of good versus evil, with their religion representing absolute good. I had a thought come to me. I'm going to write it down, and then we're going to revisit this thought at the end of the show. Okay. Because this is, yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going. I guess something I will ponder at the end of this. So, literal interpretation. So we get into a kind of a definition of fundamentalism. They often adhere to a strict literal interpretation of religious texts, disregarding context. Context is so important. Metaphor or historical analysis. Is your mind running? Because mine is currently running, going, oh, I know, I know religious fanatics. Mine is just going. So then we have here a devaluation of worldly affairs. They may place less importance on earthly events and focus intensely on the afterlife or spiritual rewards. This also says there is dogmatism and rigidity. They have a fixed worldview and are resistant to new information or evidence that contradicts their beliefs. See, and that goes with the wavering certainty. So we're getting a lot of stuff that's all working together. It's sort of like if you have one of these, you end up having the others. That's sort of a domino effect is what I'm feeling. And the last one in this category of beliefs and attitudes is a sense of superiority. They may believe their religious group or themselves are superior to others due to their faith. Which goes with the evil thing. Not just is everyone else evil, but I'm better. Now, the next section is behaviors and actions. So they have a proselytizing zeal. They often feel compelled to convert others to their beliefs and may be aggressive or persistent in their efforts. I do not think all missionaries are fanatics. I would like to clarify that. I think just wanting someone to be a part of my religion because I think it's awesome, it might be beneficial to their life, doesn't necessarily make you a fanatic, but it can. And I am sort of quasi iffy when it comes to just missionary work in general. It's just that's also part of the Sanatana Dharma. We don't knock on your door. We don't knock on your door. Anyways, this says social isolation. They may primarily associate with others who share their extreme views and distance themselves from those who do not, which actually tends to get into cult territory now. I guess a cult would be very much a fanatic of their own little belief system. And when you socially isolate yourself, that's also like stepping out of the world. I don't think that is beneficial to anybody. This says rule enforcement. They may feel a strong need to impose their religious beliefs and moral conviction on others, which I'm going to add here probably involves those both in the group who are misbehaving and those outside the group. This is total cult territory now. There is actually an example I'll give of this of the Jehovah's Witness Church. From what I've read, I've never been in a Jehovah's Witness temple, but from what I've read, there is the main congregation, and then there's a little room in the back. And if you have misbehaved, you go sit in that room, and you'll do your whole service from that room. Glass windows, door. No one will talk to you. No one will socialize with you. You're just sitting there in misery. I broke a law, and at some point they'll let me out of this prison so I can then join the congregation. That's what I'm reminded of. And that's a cult. Jehovah's Witness is a cult because of that behavior. Interesting. Let's keep going. Justification of harm. In extreme cases, they may believe their religious convictions justify harm, discrimination, or violence against those they deem outsiders or infidels. It literally says infidels. So this is a tricky one, particularly when we get into things like let's say the Hindutva movement, for example, which sort of is taking revenge on the years of oppression by Muslims. Like, I attack a Muslim now, it's out of a sense of revenge, or maybe they did something to me. We have to understand that attitude with that context and separate it from, anyone who just wants to create harm because someone's different. It's one thing to take revenge, and it's another thing to I just don't like you, and it's going to be harmful to you. We do need to understand there's a slight context there, and one might be a fanatic, one might not be. But we see how close these things are. So the next point is veneration of leaders. They might show extreme reverence for specific religious leaders or texts. And now we are fully in the cult territory. I did not really realize that was where this is going. As I said at the beginning, I haven't actually read all of this. And this is so not me either. None of these things reflect me or any of the message I give on the show. So the person who said I am a religious fanatic, there's nothing here. Some of the thinking might overlap, but none of this stuff. I just don't support any of this. So then it says disregard for secular authority. They might prioritize religious law or interpretations over civil law. Yeah, I'm just going to let that one go because I'm sure you all have thoughts. So the next category is psychological factors. So it says need for certainty and meaning. Fanaticism can provide a sense of structure and purpose in a complex world. And that sort of relates to what I said at the beginning of the show, that I feel that fanaticism is not about finding God. It's about being a part of a community that helps you survive in the world. That's what it is to me. It just feels like you're just a part of a movement. Maybe because you're lacking something someplace else in your life and you want a sense of belonging. We all kind of do. Some brave people just say screw it. I think and so you join this group, but it's not about really finding truth or finding yourself. And because it's uncritical, you never will. It's interesting. And this ties into the thought I had earlier that I want to come to at the end. Continuing, this says identity formation. Their religious beliefs may be deeply intertwined with their sense of self and group identity. Yeah, it's all one. Who you are is the religion, but the religion may not be really about finding who you truly are. Then there is fear and anxiety. They may fear dissent and perceive those with different views as a threat to their identity and values. Oh my God, this is cult talk. Cult talk is always about, and I've done so many episodes on this now, us versus them, and the outsiders are a threat because they'll destroy this thing we have. The fact is, what they're destroying should be destroyed because you are in a cult and believing things which are not good. But there is a sense of fear and anxiety. Continuing, it says cognitive biases. They may exhibit biases such as confirmation bias, seeking out information that confirms their beliefs and rejecting contradictory evidence. We've all seen that. Dehumanization. They may dehumanize those outside their faith to justify negative treatment. I'm sorry, again, I need to make a note here. This is really interesting. Then we have poor cognitive processing. So some research suggests a link between extremist views and subtle difficulties with complex mental processing. I don't know if this is implying mental illness, but I'm not going to say that. What I might interpret this as, someone thinks for you all the time, so you never learn how to think. That's what this is. Maybe not a mental illness. It's just no one ever teaches you how to think. I knew someone who was on drugs from marijuana and then later stuff from middle school through college, got off the drugs, and didn't really know how to function in the world because all those growing years where you learn how to function and you learn things were smoked away, man. They're just like, I just do whatever and I don't think about the consequences. And now when I'm 30 and I need to think about the consequences, I don't know how. I never have. I didn't learn how. But I wouldn't say that person was mentally ill. They just skipped to school that taught you how to be a human. So I'm not going to say that this is a mental illness, but imagine then, okay, let's say you're in that mindset and you get out and you're like, dude, I don't know what to do now. And, there's a guru and the guru takes care of all my problems. You never learn how to think. That's just sad. Or if you're raised in a religion and you're born into this religion and it's a very restrictive cult-like religion, and you never really learn to be yourself, to be in touch with yourself, to think for yourself, to question, all that is bad. Wow, that's just horrible. That's like being born in a prison camp and living in a prison all your life. That's just horrible. It's like I was going to say North Korea, but that's just sad. And anyone who would put someone into that position and lead them, it's not that the person is mentally ill, but they've never developed their brain. They've never developed it. Much is the same as someone who just, doesn't care. Not developing your brain, this makes me sad. God gave you a brain. Why waste it away? Now, there's one more point here. It says impulsivity and okay. I have to get through reading and then I'll say what's in my head. Impulsivity and sensation seeking. These traits have been linked to the endorsement of violence in support of ideology. So this person I just spoke about who had been on drugs for half her life really had some cognitive issues thinking about stuff. The whole concept of thinking about tomorrow and thinking about consequences was not in her vocabulary. Detrimentally so to everybody in her world, matter of fact. But it wasn't there. She'd never developed these skills. Her entire life, though, because of that, was based on impulsivity and sensation seeking. There was nothing that wasn't sensation seeking, and the stuff that could have been developed out, she had no sense of developing it, and it just was all about grabbing, anything I can get, grabbing, what's this? And I've known others who are like this, funny enough. I've known other people who are like this, and all of them were people who really hadn't developed their mind. They weren't settled, and it was just about like animal instincts, like whatever I'm just gonna have sex all the time, or I'm just gonna party all the time, or I don't think about these things. So these things go together. So I paused there because as soon as I started reading that, I was like, oh boy, this sounds way too familiar. Um, and sensation seeking, as you know, ties us to the material world, which pulls us away from God. Uh, so according to this, a fanatic is someone who can be very impulsive with poor comprehensive skills and is sensation seeking, yet these things are not traits that put you in touch with God in any way, shape, or form. They put you in touch with the human animal instincts. You become like a demon. You can be, you know. An asura is in touch with their animal traits. But there's nothing here in this list. It's very interesting. I have not read a single thing which is about finding God. You notice that? Nothing. God wasn't even really mentioned. This is Google. They're giving you a generic definition, but still a religious fanatic. And I didn't read anything about finding God, self-development, personal growth. So there's nothing in the fanatic thing. Um, there's one line here, and all right, it's a catch-22 line. It says, the small print. It says, it is important to remember that not all deeply religious individuals are fanatics. The key differentiator lies in the extremism, intolerance, and potential for harmful actions associated with fanaticism. Yeah, interesting. Interesting. So it's really like, I know the truth, but there's nothing here. Well, I know the truth, that makes me a fanatic, but I'm not doing anything that actually is going to develop something. Okay, so I now want to go on this one point, and this will wrap this show up. I hope this has been interesting. It's been interesting to me to sit and think about this. We read something quickly and then we don't think about it, but that's one of the reasons I enjoy sharing this with all of you, is we can just ponder it, and you may have more ideas. I was thinking, can we take these definitions that we've seen here today and apply them to non-religious people? So I said at the beginning, New Agers can be fanatics. I believe it totally. New Age may not be an organized religion, unless they're like Theosophy or something, or part of Aleister Crowley's world. But I think spirituality, you can be a spiritual fanatic. And I wondered during the show if you can be an atheist fanatic, which then made me wonder, or I don't know, at some point I wondered, can we take this outside of the religion world? So this is the thing I talk about in my cult episodes, is the definition of cult. A solid definition that works is one that can be used for anything. You can put it on this group or that group. This group's religious, that group's not. The definition does not need qualifiers. You can use the exact same definition on woke or MAGA as you can on Christians or Catholics or extremist Muslims. And you don't change the definition. That is a solid definition. And I use this criticism on my shows all the time, talking about cults, because people will have a definition of cult, and the moment you move it to another group, like, well, this is the definition of Christian cults, but as soon as you move it to Muslims or MAGA, it falls apart, which means it's not a good definition. So I'm just wondering if we could take this definition and move it to something non-religious. And I'm already hinting about what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about politics. I'm talking about MAGA, and I'm talking about the woke extremism, the two ends of the American political spectrum. We could also talk about more conservatives and liberals. I know Poland just had an election, and England's dealing with things in France. So you could use whatever country you want, or India and the parties in it. It doesn't really matter. But I'm wondering if we could take this definition of fanaticism and now use it on, is MAGA, are they fanatics? Are woke progressives fanatics? I mean, they have unwavering certainty in their beliefs. They're very intolerant of anyone who's not a woke progressive. They're so intolerant that they called 1/4 of conservatives, and nowadays it's been blasted up to half. The actual quote is 1/4. Deplorables and evil and animals. So if you're not a woke progressive in America, you are an animal and you're evil. They use that all the time. Could we? And they don't want to hear any view. So could the woke progressives be fanatics? Well, looks like from what I just said, they're on the way there. I'm not going to do an episode on that. I do think woke progressives are a cult, though. And I will be doing an episode on why I say that, and we're going to be working through that list and explaining why I think they are a cult. And we see that there is a lot of overlap with cults in this list. But we could use other groups. So subscribe if you want to see that episode. It's going to be coming up in the next couple months. It's been pre-recorded though, but it'll be out soon, this summer. So please subscribe for that. Uh, I think this is a list, though. It is pretty good list. There may be other better lists or more concise ones, but the fact that I was able to just kind of break down woke progressives using this and get the same result as I could break down a religious group, for me says this is a good list. Again, this is just I just asked, hey Google, what is the traits of religious cult and what are the traits of religious fanatic and what is a religious fanatic, and this is what I came up with. And yeah, it's really interesting. It really made me think a little bit here. I hadn't really thought about fanatics and cults, but now I am. Now I'm associating them in my head. The idea of being uncritical, I guess I hadn't really considered that aspect of being a fanatic. I just saw them as like violent and obsessive to the point where they're getting rid of anything else, and the enthusiasm is a little bit like, "Ooh, settle down, boy." But the uncritical part I hadn't really contemplated until now. So that's just my feelings on this. You might have other feelings. I welcome you to put your comments down below on whatever forum you are watching this show on. There's lots of forums this show on, and so yeah, I hope this has been very educational. This was very educational for me. I love, if you haven't figured it out by now, and this is episode 160, I love going through ideas and churning them over, and I'm not always right. Do understand, I'm not scripting what I say here. You clearly can tell. This is just me in the moment, enjoying going over these facts. There are times when I have done something on this show and I'm wrong. And I come up with a wrong opinion, and after the fact, I have made an episode where I'm like, I think I didn't quite get it, and I thought about it more. So this is all very off the cuff and whatever, but it is interesting to think about this. And now I am going to take this topic and put it in my arsenal. So you will probably down the road hear about religious fanaticism. It's my arsenal now to look at things through, and it's now part of my worldview. And I really had never really sat down and looked at what a religious fanatic was. I'd always used the definition that the media gives me: a religious fanatic, an Islam person that cuts some Muslim, sorry, that cuts somebody in public. That's a religious fanatic. Now we really see it, and the definition's great because I can look at other things. So I hope you have enjoyed this as much as I have. As I said, I've been looking forward to this episode for about a month now, and I'm glad I did it. And I hope the person who spurred this episode by saying that I was a religious fanatic sees that I'm not in any way, shape, or form. Not even close. And I hope they'll go back and now watch other episodes of my show, and they'll really realize that. And maybe next time they won't label somebody else as a religious fanatic who is not. We should be careful about just randomly throwing labels on people. Oh, you're a Nazi. You're a religious fanatic. You're whatever. When it may not always be right. And we're doing that person an injustice, but we're also doing ourselves an injustice because we're actually not thinking about the definitions of the words we're using and what those words mean. We're kind of just making stuff up instead of learning and then truly knowing, like, oh yeah, this is what it is, or this is what it is. Okay. With that, I'm going to say thank you for joining me for this past hour. It is a rainy Saturday here in Portland, Maine. I'm sure you've had the sounds from my microphone of the cars going by, and it was pouring rain last night, and it's just overcast today. So my apologies for that. And so sorry about any outside sounds. And yeah, with that, I'm just going to say Jai Shri Krishna. Thank you so much, as always, for joining me. Please subscribe to this show and please share it. And if you have any thoughts you'd really like to share, I'm not really good about getting to the comments. It is a matter of time. This show takes up a lot of time just to create it. There's a lot of things I'd like to do that I don't have time for, and the comments sort of fall behind. It's just one of those things. So if you really want to share something with me, drop it in an email. My email is in these shows, and I will respond to every email I get. And that is a promise. Anyone who's ever emailed will tell you I don't ignore you. I will respond to you. So email me with any things you want. And if you want, I will revisit this episode. And so also check out this out. Check this out if you're not on YouTube, on other forums, because I know not everyone likes YouTube. And with that, I'm just going to say thank you for joining me. Jai Shri Krishna. I wish you the best in your spiritual life. Um, whatever form it takes, we're all unique creatures here with our own path. And I'm just opening the window into mine, hoping that mine has some value to you. Really, that's all it is. And to encourage you to find your path, whatever it is. So, Om Namo Narayana.